Ray, what's happening? I can't even see my body.
Maddie, I told you about this. It's the Holy Grail bass. Just take a few deep breaths.
But I can't see anything.
Hold on, you will. Patience, my friend.
Next time.
Yeah, exactly. This, by hands down, is the favorite bass I've ever owned, and you're gonna love it, but next time.
Yes! Perfect.
We'll figure it out. Hi, I'm Ray Riendeau, and I'm about to show you guys what I consider, and a lot of people consider, the Holy Grail of electric basses, 1960 Fender Jazz bass. So this bass is the first year production, 1960, of the jazz bass. And the jazz bass, hands down, is my #1 favorite bass of all time. So to own one of these, if you would asked me even a few short years ago, I would have said never, and just the opportunity came up to get a hold of one of these, and I couldn't pass, and especially after I saw this bass. Just beautiful. And you could tell this bass has been really, really played, and rightly so. Just amazing bass. And Leo, as always, I mean, just knocked it out of the park with the design, the offset contour body, and there's a lot to unpack with this bass, with the 1960. So let's talk about some things you're probably more familiar with. We have like our standard Clover tuners, excuse me, and we have a button on the back here, our hootenanny button, and that was kind of borrowed from the folk guitarists that used to use the back of the peg and sometimes they would tie it down there, this part of the strap, or they would use the strap button on the back. Our headstock here, this is interesting. In 60, which this bass is, 61 and 62, the offset contour body, that part of the logo in 64 was separated from that and moved to the ball end of the headstock in 64. So when you see that, you're going to have a 63 or early on a jazz bass. You can see some wear there, but most of it's intact. And this is we'll talk about the neck. Got a lot of wear back here. This thing just feels great. I can't remember the exact dimensions of the nut width, but it's very small. I think one of the smallest is the first ones. So it's just got a really thin profile up there. A lot of honest wear. It's this is a refret some time ago. You can see the frets look newer. We do have the clay dots that were used in 59 to 65, late 65. And then, of course, one of the things that's just super amazing is that Brazilian rosewood. It's so dark, so rich, beautiful. And Leo used that as far as he could. It just the pricing and the availability, and then you couldn't use the Brazilian rosewood anymore. And yeah, it just looks amazing. So dark, so rich, and with the clay dots. Another thing, move on to the next part of the bass here. This, I'm not sure if this finger rest or tug bar is original. It looks kind of newer, but the screws certainly look old. You're probably noticing the pick guard. The pick guard was a different material in the early days, and they switched to something probably that was more cost effective. But if you can just see, just like with the neck, these are hard. I've seen repos that have come close, but the original ones, just the depth of them and how they look are amazing. You can see it's the original. It's got the shrinkage, how it doesn't match up here through time. That happens. But it's still intact, and it's pretty awesome that it's not cracked anywhere or broken. So I was surprised when I saw that. And then we have, this is where he introduced the 2 single coil pickups, neck pickup. We have the bridge pickup. And from there, we have our 4 saddle bridge. And no, I'm not ignoring it. I'm going to tell you. I did something on purpose here. You don't normally see these, and you probably have probably wondered when you see a really early 60s jazz bass and you see the 4 holes between the bridge pickup and the bridge, wondered what those were for. And what those were for is that Leo created individual string mutes for the bass. And these were the first ones. I'm not sure if these were a reissue that's on here. It's hard to tell. I mean, they looked really nice. But I have seen stuff where people have taken them off early on and just put them, preserved them in the case, maybe put them in a bag, and they've stayed nice because they weren't really used. But anyway, this is what they looked like, and they really, really, as you will hear, mute the strings. And the reason for that muting, this was the first design, and all through the Fender years, Leo tried a lot of different things with basses, with muting, with the foam under the covers. You'll see a different variation of this on some of the basses with these individual stream mutes, but they weren't 4 different holes. They were attached to the bridge extending further, like on the Mustang and some of those bridges. Leo used to give his instruments to a lot of guys to check out, and that's one thing that I think was a big part of his success is he was innovative and had a lot of great ideas, but he would always test them out too, and he couldn't wait to get instruments into the hands of musicians and let them play them and get that feedback and just constantly improve, evolve. Having said that, it's amazing what he got right out of the gate without any, very much input. But how cool is it that ultimately, it was about that. It was about trying to make the best instruments that he could make. And I mean, it just shows. It really shows time and time again. The other thing on the early basses, and certainly the 1960 here, the first one, and this remained till, let's see, I think till 62. But we have a different electronic setup. Instead of the 3 knobs, we have a 2-knob system. And these are called concentric knobs. And what we have is a volume for this pickup and then a tone for this pickup. And then we have the same thing, but for the bridge pickup, which is very interesting because the 3-knob system, as you know, you have a volume, tone, but this lets you control the different tones for the bridge pickup versus the neck pickup. And this is referred to commonly because how they look like they're stacked is stack pot knobs on there, the 2. So that, like I said, that lasted, I think, late 62, maybe into 63. The finish on this is actually an Olympic white. And one of the things that was passed down with this bass, I always try to learn the history, and one thing that seems to be passed down that apparently, or allegedly, this bass was refinished in 63. So a really, really early refin. I could probably see underneath the neck and see if it was, sometimes there might be some residue from what it originally was. If that's true, it was most likely a sunburst bass. And but the white here, the Olympic white, I've posted this and people have come back and said, no, that bass is yellow. And they're right, because the paint they used back then, the lacquers and the paints, is they used this nitro paint, which over time with UV rays, light, nicotine, yellows. So after all these years, this original white that you can see here, this Olympic white, has turned this bass yellow. Another thing that happens with the finish, you can see, is all the checking. And all this stuff I just think is so much character. It's just beautiful. And this bass, it's kind of cliche, but if this bass could talk kind of thing, I try to find the history out on these instruments, and as much as I can. And but you can tell that this was really loved and really played. All the honest wear here on the back of the neck. Just really stunning. And just remember, if you're thinking about the sound of this bass, you know, if you kind of compare it for a second to like an upright, you can kind of see what was happening here. And the fact that it's called a Jazz, I think, I believe I read somewhere that that wasn't even Leo's name. I think it was the marketing department, because that's kind of what they were, you know, the upright thing again, and getting some of those guys to switch over from the big doghouse basses to the electric bass. But let's give this a listen. Let's check it out. So right away you can hear here the sustain. It's definitely that one there. So if you think about like that upright sound, you know, you're getting that. Here you can hear, we have, like I was talking about, we'll take the back pickup out of the picture. We've got the front pickup, we'll do all the way up, tone. Back pickup, tone all the way up. A lot of it's going to have to do with the hand placement and stuff too, but you can definitely hear that decay. So, Holy Grail of basses to me, and I think a lot of other people, 1960, first production year of a Fender Jazz bass. Thanks for tuning in, guys.